this, go to work, make sure that your taxes are paid so I can get my pension.
My taxes are paid. Don't you know I'm self-employed so that I don't pay taxes? Oops, didn't say that. Okay.
Oh, a legal loophole there.
Yeah, that's the whole point, is that use the loopholes when you can, yeah. All right. So welcome, everybody. This is Talking Niagara. This is Friday, the July 24th. Gosh, we're getting on in the world. So is it Christmas in July tomorrow?
Christmas in July, and how do you mean?
Well, for the last few years, I keep hearing this thing of Christmas in July. Well, it's the 25th tomorrow, isn't it? I haven't heard anything about Christmas in July this year.
I don't even know what that means.
No, you don't? Okay. I've been seeing it.
It's not even halfway point to Christmas.
Yeah,
June 25th would be.
Yeah, I know. But anyway. No, it's something I've heard, but I've not seen it this year. Okay. All right. Well, here we go. Marineland merchandise is being donated to there's basically about $500,000 worth. It's going to be donated to hospitals, shelters, and children's charities following the park's closure.
A big pile of it's going to go over to orphanages in Serbia. It seems like. So it's donated. I would like to know. I would make sure that. Go ahead.
Well, clothing and that sort of thing I can understand could go to orphanages, but merchandise going to Serbia would seem to me to be, I could imagine that, for example, local organizations, local charities, local shelters could sell the stuff to raise money.
Well, it's Marineland merch, so how can you sell it? You know what I mean? It's like selling a brand that doesn't even exist anymore. These are just toys for little kids and things like that. Yeah. I don't know. Well, they're donating it, so in the spirit of the fact that they're donating it, should mean that you shouldn't try to make some money off of it.
No, because it was being donated.
Unless you have a business plan. In this particular case, there's a bunch of it. There's a fellow by the name of Michael Grujic pitched an idea in the park to send to kids in need. And he says 10 or 15 years ago, the Niagara Parks Commission put a notice in the newspaper that they had some excess merchandise that they would like to donate. And I think it said his sister bought up a bunch of it, $45,000 to $50,000, and then sent it overseas to Serbian orphanages. Well, there's more than just Serbian orphanages. There's got to be. Imagine what kids would like to do with that in Gaza right about now, wouldn't you? Wouldn't the kids in Gaza like a few toys?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anything to brighten up the ducking bombs and being shot at, and being. Oh, by the way, they only have one meal a day. Thank you very much, Mr. Netanyahu, and I think he grudgingly gives them that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's, but I mean, I'm glad it's going. Like, these are going to go to orphanages and kids that have nothing. If they go all the way to, this is a guy that.
Well, no, what I was thinking,
and he's done well here, so he's going to send it over to Serbia. It costs him about $10,000 to ship it there.
Yeah.
The other stuff is going to be donated to hospitals and other things in and around Ontario. So, I mean, hats off to them for donating them.
Yeah. When I was saying about hospitals and shelters and children's charities, etc., I was thinking, and I was talking about them selling it. I hadn't realized what you were talking about in that regard. I was thinking about they could sell the merchandise in order to raise money for themselves, for their organizations.
Well,
that's all I was thinking. But anyway.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not a problem. I was just thinking along a different route is all. All right. Okay.
Well, it's nice to see that the stuff is going. You always have to worry about who's gonna is there anything there that somebody can slyly then put on the black market and sell, make some money off of it?
There's
As
always
long as
somebody
everybody,
like
as long as everybody is in the same road, that it's a charitable thing.
Yeah, there's always somebody like that, though, Dave. You know that. There's somebody who's probably skimmed the last of, he went around somehow and manages to get hold of the last of the Marineland everything, in order to keep it, in order that in 50 years' time, there's a nice investment.
Well, we know what happens when stuff goes overseas. Al Jazeera had investigative reporters, African journalists, that it helped get together, and they went looking into the donations that other countries give to Africa. Yeah. And sadly, they found a bunch of Canadian grain and flour being used that was being donated, sent by Canada to relieve poverty and that, and it just ended up being sold on the black market.
Yep.
Same thing with the AIDS drugs in South Africa.
Yeah.
You need a cocktail of drugs to keep you alive if you've got AIDS, and AIDS spread through South. I could tell you this too, because I was in Zimbabwe in 1999, and AIDS was ravaging the place. You saw everybody, they called it down there, they called it slim disease. You saw all kinds of people just emaciated from AIDS. So you need a cocktail of drugs that are expensive. Now, the Western countries have made sure that the drugs got there. However, in between, sometimes the government allied with gangsters basically grab this stuff and put it on the black market. So if you want to live, you got to pay top dollar.
Yeah.
And that's pure profit because the stuff was mostly donated.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So there seems to be two stories about the Gordie Howe Bridge. There's the US story, there's the Canadian story, and they seem to be a little bit different.
Not really. The US is more honest about this. In this particular case, good old Mark Carney, he did not tell us the truth about this. Surprise, surprise, a politician did not tell us the truth. Now, I don't know what his motivation was here, because he knows that the whole truth is going to come out. So in the meantime, the bridge is going to go open on Monday.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a little bit of fanfare, but the Americans are now not invited to the grand opening. They're just shut out. So all the American people, I don't know, they might invite some of the Michigan ones, but they're not going to invite any of the federal employee, it's going to be open. It's going to be a Canadian party only. The U.S. may have a little bit of their own opening ceremonies on the other side, but this is definitely a Canadian.
Yeah, but it won't be the U.S.
Canadian triumph. Canadian triumph. They built, they designed, they found the designer, the architect. They built a signature bridge across the Windsor, the river there, and the St. Clair River, and there it is. It's going to be a fabulous bridge. They're willing to share the glory of this, but of course, DJ Trump and his buddy, who owns the other bridge, were forced into a deal that Mark Carney wasn't exactly honest about up until this time. What the deal is, Carney said that we're going to get most of the money ourselves, but well, no, it turns out that half for the 15 years, first 15 years, half of the toll revenues that are supposed to go to Canada to help pay off our debt will go to the United States in a regional development plan run by the feds. And so 15 for the first 15 years, I don't know thereafter. And then those 15 years, and during that time, they cannot increase or decrease the rates at which cargo goes over the bridge. That is to protect their buddy who owns the Ambassador Bridge. So his buddy that owned the Ambassador Bridge comes with $1 million, hands it over to Howard Lutnick, and then Howard Lutnick is the worm tongue that then went to Trump and said, "Look, we got, that bridge you like so much in Windsor. Now pretend you don't like it, okay? And if you pretend you don't like it, then we might be able to squeeze them for some money." We got them really by the shorts because the bridge is about to open, and we can really mess this up for them really bad and get some money off of it. And that's exactly what they did. No honor. There is no honor to this administration. There is no dignity. You cannot trust the word of this administration on anything. And the whole world knows it, unfortunately. Who's going to be able to really trust their trade agreements with this particular administration ever, or the United States? It would depend on which administration is in office as to what kind of deal is going to happen or what kind of treaty is going to happen. Mike Cushman, time to tariff the U.S. 50% on energy costs for harboring pedophiles. I'm sure there's probably, one of the things, a Canadian billionaire was among the pedophiles down in Epstein Island.
Yeah, why does that not surprise me?
That's a worldwide thing, you know what I mean? But yeah,
that does not surprise me in the least. Yeah.
Look, we do not have much to fight with. We're fighting back. We're the only country other than the United States or other than China that's fighting back against this tariff regime. It paid off the first round because, of course, the Supreme Court turned around some of Trump's tariffs, but they're reaching for anything else they can. So we don't have a whole lot we can fight back with. We need them more than they need us, and they know it.
Yeah.
And if you've got an unscrupulous person like Trump who has no dignity, no honor, what are you going to do? You're going to have to just kind of do the best you can. And then as far as the Gordie Howe Bridge, it looks like Mark Carney hasn't been totally honest with us about the deal. But Tuesday night, everything came out. And it said, we're getting stiffed. We're getting stiffed big time. And we don't know if that'll ever change next. I think probably what Carney's thinking and everybody else is thinking, we're going to have to open that bridge. Once we get that bridge open and things moving, then we might have more leverage because the economics ramifications of that will be huge for Michigan, especially, and Ontario. But this bridge will service Michigan in a big way in its trade corridor there. I think probably once that thing gets open and its worth is realized, then you might be able to take some of the political machinations from the Maroon family that own the Ambassador Bridge out of it. This is really striking to me because Republicans are the ones that are supposed to despise a monopoly, and they're very willing to have the Ambassador Bridge as a monopoly, as we've seen.
Yeah.
And
but there's a difference between a monopoly. There's a difference between a monopoly that you can take advantage of and a monopoly that, that you support, etc., than other people's monopolies, right?
Well, yeah, obviously it was a Republican supporter that has a monopoly on that bridge, and they use that because they think they're going to get some more money off the goof. Anyway, so what happened was the Ambassador Bridge a couple of weeks ago started dropping their rates because they know that they're going to have to bring them in line with the with Gordie Howe Bridge.
Yeah.
So that's a thing there. And anyway, once that bridge is open, I think that's the main thing. I think that's pretty much what they're looking at. There's going to be a lot of criticisms because there's going to be no winning. You're not going to be able to say, okay, well, we're going to wait for the next administration to open up the bridge.
Yeah, you can't do
You
that.
know,
Yeah.
you can't do that, you know.
Pressure is going to cause that bridge to be open one way or the other, right?
It's massive investments. Yeah, and we got stiffed. We got stiffed because the guy is a dishonorable guy. Name him Ludnick, Trump, Gates, Clinton. Yeah, all the pedals. Yeah, we don't have even a free trade. Carney won't go to the table, so we must. Well, of course he's not going to go to the table. He's it. No, he's willing to go to the table. It's the Americans that keep doing the business of shutting it down. They make incredible demands. Mexico will not sign a deal without Canada. The Mexicans have tried to, the Americans have tried to split Mexico off against this. Of course, this is a divide and conquer thing. And of course, as we see, they're demanding that we start selling American booze again. Well, that takes away our leverage. They want to, they don't even want to negotiate while we have leverage. And that's the problem. They've got leverage against us, but it's not okay if we have leverage against them. So we have been there the whole time waiting to negotiate, and the American side is the one that's being on and off about this. They just keep doing the new threat, and that's their technique. They say, okay, we're going to go over this, and at the very last minute, they say, oh yeah, by the way, we want more. That's what they did to Japan. That's what they did to Europe. Now Japan and Europe, they all bowed down. We didn't bow down. We don't bow down.
Yeah.
We don't have much to fight with. I mean, they've got a club and we've got a toothpick, but we're going to jab them as much as we can with the toothpick and hope it makes a difference.
One thing about this particular bridge, by the way, Dave, is I think this is actually one of the most spectacular looking bridges on this entire route. It's a suspension bridge. It really does look fantastic.
Yes, it's a signature bridge.
Yeah.
I think it's the largest of its kind in North America of that particular type.
I haven't done any research on, but yeah, I just think it looks spectacular.
It's not the largest suspension bridge, but it's the largest of this particular design.
Of this particular design, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
I think it's instead of using wires, it's using lengthy rod. It looks like those are rods, not cables.
I don't know.
You know,
don't know any of the details. I just know it looks good, and what I've read, it's actually built to last. Yeah. Yeah,
I think there is a trap door in it, though, in case Trump ever does drive over it. There's a little button somebody can push, and a trap door will open up, and he'll head down to the St. Clair River. At least in my mind.
Please don't, cursing man. So why Canadian does not want to go to the table? Obama, Ontario is going broke, and Alberta wants out of Canada now. Yeah, well, they actually don't want out of Canada because at the moment, the last time they looked, there was kind of like 60% of in opposition.
Well, Trump's talking about Chinese interference in American elections. Right now, there's American interference in the referendum in Alberta. They already sent operatives there to make a mess and try to get things stirred up. It's a huge amount of hypocrisy when the United States starts saying stuff. There's meddling in our elections. Of course, there's meddling in our elections because you meddle in everybody else's elections too. So, what are you talking about? And you're bumming out about people spying on you when you're spying on everybody else. It's a duplicitous thing. It's a kind of hypocrisy. I'm allowed to do it, but you're not. And the United States, we have, according to our own people, we've had people ready and willing to negotiate at any time Americans want.
Yeah.
But it's the Americans that keep shutting it down or saying they're not going for it and changing the rules. That's everybody's getting the idea of that's their technique. It took the world a little while to figure that out because they would make a deal and then 10 minutes later there was more demands. We need 15% tariff from you. Okay, you can have 15% tariff. Oh, well, we just before the ink hits the paper, we decided it's going to be 20 now. The Japanese found this out the hard way. They made a deal. They came over to sign it. When they did, hey, guess what? That 3% in $3 billion we want you to invest, it's now up to 3.5 if you want the deal.
Yeah.
So we do it here. He says he just wants voters to. No, I don't think that is really what it's all about. I think when they've looked at, Rick is bringing up voter fraud and ID. All the investigations, including the Republicans' investigations, the non-biased, nonpartisan investigations into voting, find out, there are people that come to the voting booths to vote that are not qualified to vote. And most of that time is because the voting rolls erroneously sent them a voting. So there'd be somebody living in the United States who has a green card or something like that, and they're given their voting card to come and vote. There's very few people that this happens to.
Yeah.
I think in one place there was 800 people that were told to vote, but when they got in, they were determined that they weren't eligible to vote. Yeah. There are very few people that vote that are ineligible to vote. This is not a thing. This is not a thing that people come in and vote because at the voting booth, if you're an illegal and you come into a voting booth, where's the most likely place you're going to get caught?
In a voting booth. Yeah.
A little later on.
There's going to be an ICE agent right there on the all day in the voting booth, right?
Well, you don't even have to have that, because once the vote's done and the scrutineers come to look at the votes, and there's some votes with question marks on them, you find that it didn't happen. Look, Hillary Clinton, after she got beat in 2016, asked for massive vote recounts. None of it worked her way. As a matter of fact, a handful, like 100 or something votes, actually went to Donald Trump that should have gone, that she thought was hers. The same thing when they did the 2020 election. Arizona looked at it 3 times. Georgia combed over it 3 or 4 times. Nothing. They checked the machines over and over and over again. Yeah. And they were okay. This is a thing that doesn't really happen. Yeah. And I don't understand why they want this, because they won the Congress, they won the Senate, they won the president, they won the presidential election. They won all those, and they're saying there's illegal votes out there. There's not. So I would agree with Rick. So picture ID. We have to have it here, but there's other methods you can prove if you don't have it. I know I worked on the polls. You don't necessarily have to have picture ID. There's other ways in which you can get there. If you don't have picture ID, you can prove who you are. If you've got a voting card, if you don't have a voting card, you can make a vote. If you can make some kind of proof of who you are, a little later on, they'll scrutinize that vote to make sure that you're able to vote. Particularly if you move from one place to another, suddenly you're a new resident, and you're told that the people of this area go to such and such a poll, and you go there and say, well, I just moved. I used to live here. Here it is, and I want to vote. Yes, you can vote. So there's very, very few people who vote erroneously. Yeah. And people in the United States who are illegal, the last place they're going to go is to a voting booth, because that's the primary place they'll be caught.
There's an ICE agent sitting there, with his thumb up his vest, looking at everybody who comes in, and there's somebody says, I think we got a problem here, man, and the ICE agent's right there to deport them, right?
Well, but you don't even have to have the ICE agents, and I don't think an ICE agents at the voting booth is any good at all. I think that's intimidation. Yeah, you don't have to have it. In all other elections, when there hasn't been a jackbooted goon looking at you, that illegal or erroneous votes do not play much of a role at all.
They don't. They don't. All right. Moving on. 6.1 million investment in Niagara Peninsula Energy Inc.'s grid is looking to modernize with smart grid technology.
Yeah. So, I will add this though. I have friends that were Democrats in the States, and I told them, as far as the voting thing is, why don't you just make sure your voters have a voter ID, a picture ID? Why not just do that? But it's expensive and it's problematic and all this other stuff. So just like some people don't have a driver's license, let's say, or whatever else. The American people, generally speaking, don't go and get passports. Very few of them had passports before 9/11. Now they have to have them if they want to travel. There is a citizen card you can get, but these are expensive, things of that kind. So, but I told the Democrats that I was talking about, who said that voter ID is a slippery slope of controlling the votes. And I said, just get voter ID with a picture on it. It's plain and simple. You'll beat the Republicans at their own game if you do that. But I don't know. They just draw the line.
All right.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Niagara Peninsula Energy is putting in a 6.1 million investment into the company's grid with smart grid technology. They're getting 2.7 million from Natural Resources Canada, a federal government program, and they're spending 3.4 million of NPEI's money, presumably money they put aside for future investment. And this is to align with the government's smarter, broader smart renewal and electrification pathways program, which has been funding grid modernization projects across Canada since 2021. So now it's our turn.
Yeah, this is kind of this is rather good, actually. This is a local story. $6.1 million going into it, and the feds are going to come up with 2.7 million of that for the Niagara Peninsula Niagara Peninsula Energy. So it's going to be more reliable, and these are the things that's going to, as you know, we get a lot of little blackouts and brownouts all in and around here. Now the problem with blackouts is plain and simple: the power is out. Okay, no problem. But when you start getting brownouts and reduced amount of power into your home, you're really doing damage. You're doing damage to things like your refrigerator that requires a capacitor in order to trigger the compressor. So what happens is it works really hard to draw. If you're getting 80 volts or 90 volts, and your fridge is really trying to draw power out of that, there are things that get damaged when you have low power in your house. The blackouts, of course, go ahead.
Yeah, some of the things like that will be things like computers and televisions and the things like that, particularly computers. And you put a lot of investment into a computer typically, and every time you get these brownouts, the computer doesn't quite have enough power to operate.
I thought it converts it to DC, right? In order for it to be used.
Basically the power pack on the computer may still, if you got a laptop and the power fluctuates on the laptop, you depend upon the laptop battery. But if you've got a desktop, desktops don't have batteries, do they?
Yeah. So there you go. Get a laptop with a battery in it. That is probably as far as computers going, that's probably your best situation is to get battery backup, because most electronic stuff is all run by DC. They convert AC to DC, and most computers, well, my laptop and stuff have batteries, but that battery is then filled up. But if it's anything that has to draw right from the grid,
yeah.
if it's
So the
anything that has to
problems
go ahead.
Yeah, brownouts give problems across almost every bit of electronic kit that you've got. As you talked about refrigerators, freezers, electric cookers. If you were cooking a meal at the time, it happens.
Well, you're going to burn out your motor because it's trying too hard to to draw power. Anyway, so the new project will deploy automatic reclosers at identified sites, configure and deploy fault location, isolation and service restoration software to increase reliability, and to develop and implement interfaces to bridge outage management systems and supervisory control and data acquisition systems to deploy new smart grid devices and software.
Yeah.
So the statement here by Igor Rusik is, today marks a significant milestone for Niagara Peninsula Energy Incorporated and for the communities we proudly serve. I guess just touting the fact that they're going to modernize. But let's put it this way. I would say that the grid is like, when you think of our sewer system, our wastewater system is so old, and we keep hearing from the region and from the city that our wastewater is way out of date and it's being left to languish for way too long. And now we really, really need new wastewater and all that. We got to throw a lot of money at it. That's the same as our grid. Our grid has been left to sort of wallow away, and the grid has become older and older. And that's not just in Ontario, that's all over North America.
And Rick raised a point that he believes this has already been done. No, the point is, Rick, it has not been done. What they have been doing is slowly rolling across the country. It may have been done in Thorold, but it hasn't been done in Niagara, right? It may have been done by Electra, but it hasn't been done by NPEI.
Well, Thorold, they bought 6 more hamsters to go on the hamster wheel to make more power for Thorold.
Hydro One, okay. Hydro One does it in Thorold, okay, yeah. But there's plenty. There are other companies out there, and NPEI is still the one who controls Niagara Energy.
This is an ongoing thing anyway, Rick. I remember working for OPG as a contractor for many seasons, and this was a constant, one of those things that kept constantly coming up. How to improve the infrastructure of Hydro One, and they're the ones that transmit it. It used to be Ontario Power Generation. The transmission and the power generation also used to be one company, but they split it in half, where Hydro One is the part of the company, or is now charged with the transmission part of it, and OPG is charged with the generation part of it.
Yeah.
They're all sort of linked together, but they're 2 different outfits now. The Hydro One found itself in a bad situation because the infrastructure had been left to be aged so much. But this was typical of all over North America, is the aging infrastructure. And of course, everybody's getting all hyped up about that because of the data centers, the AI data centers that everybody wants to build here, there, and everywhere, that will take incredible amounts of power and requires grid updates and new power generation.
Yeah. By the way, while we're talking power and energy and things like that, the hydrogen plant on Whirlpool Drive looks like it's getting fairly near completion now, because they've done the main build, they've done the exterior build. Now it looks like the majority of people who were working there, probably 75-80% of the workforce have gone. So they've done the big exterior build. Now probably the technicians are doing the last remaining stuff on there. So that probably is going to open in the next 6 months. and there'll be trucks in there with picking up picking up hydrogen.
Yeah. Well, that's still an interesting thing, and I'm pretty glad that they're using hydrogen as one of the alternatives going forward. Of course, we know hydrogen is the cleanest burning fuel of all time, right? You burn it, what you get out is water, because hydrogen is the most elemental form of matter in the universe.
Yeah.
One electron, one new proton, and it's very volatile. So when it burns, the exhaust is water.
Yeah.
I mean, so.
Yep.
But to produce it is a big deal. That takes a lot.
Yeah. All right. So we know that particular thing. I expect to see an announcement soon about that one being up and running, but probably in the next 6 months sometime. Keep an eye on it, folks. Right. Okay. So moving on. St. Catherine's municipal candidates. There's 4 candidates for mayor, including Matt Sisko, who is the incumbent, Anne-Marie Zammit, who's a well-known local business lady, Anthony Adrea, and Jamie Jackson. Those are the 4 candidates for mayor. For city council, Ward 1 Meriton, you've got Jeffrey Amar, Matt Amar, Jeffrey Crane, and Jacqueline Lindahl. For Ward 2 St Andrews, you've got Matt Harris, who's run before, Jim Adair, who's, I believe, a current sitting councillor, Brian Blue, Noel Buckley, and Adriana Clifford. For St George's Ward, you've got 4 candidates. Sol Sorrento and Mark Stevens are existing. Well, Sol Sorrento was a regional councillor, so he's standing for his local ward. Alexander Miller and Kate Warnerberg, the other 2 candidates in that area. St. Patrick's, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candidates there for 2 seats. Grant Higginson, Noah Machek, Alan McKay, Robin McPherson, Caleb Ratzlaff, and Austin Schimel. I don't know any of those names, not from there. Ward 5 Grantham, you've got Spencer Bellows de Wolf, and you've got Dawn Dodge, you've got Bill Phillips, and you've got Dunsin Sunday Fakaridi, who are standing. Ward 6, which is Port Dalhousie, you've got Mary Macco, Constantina O'Reilly, Bruce Williamson, and school boards. You've got basically you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candidates for the district school board of Niagara. You've got 4 candidates for Niagara Catholic District School Board, and nobody for the French school board, but you've got 2 candidates for the French Catholic School Board. All right.
Okay. Anyone that's interested in any of that, you just heard it. I'm not, of course, I'm not from there, but any of our listeners from there may be interested in that.
Yeah. Just trying to bring everybody up to date. We just try to bring these ones up, and we will go through the final candidate list in about 3 weeks' time. Yeah. In about 2 to 3 weeks. I think in 2 weeks' time they'll be at the end. Maybe 3 weeks' time, I think. Okay. All right. So we used to be into clean energy, which gave us cheaper energy once they privatized, lumped it all together, charged everyone more. Okay. This is not industry. When industry left us, yeah. That is when industry left us. That's when industry left us. Yes, it's true.
Look, industry left here initially. They went to the southern states, the southern U.S. states, and then from there it went to either Mexico or China.
Yeah.
The United States feels that it can reshore some of that manufacturing with the use of its tariffs. That, as so far, has not worked out.
Yeah.
Has not worked out at all. As a matter of fact, the trade imbalance the United States has grown more than it has the other way around. The tariffs are supposed to reverse the trade imbalance that the United States has with the world, but it hasn't really helped that much because the trade imbalance continues to increase.
Yeah.
I would say that, yeah, I think, but if you're looking for manufacturing to come back here, it's not really, because let's face it, the people who own that manufacturing moved it to China or Bangladesh or other places. They moved it there because they can make much more money doing that.
Yeah.
That's oversimplification of it. But when we made a widget here, guess what? They can make them in China better. We're making $1 million a year making widgets. But if we move our plant over to China, we can make $2 million a year. So let's do that.
Yeah.
All
right.
Damn the jobs that are here. We don't care. The bottom line is how much lucre is in our pants pocket.
Yeah. And Karen makes the point that, as always, people will wait for the last minute to register. Yeah, that's for sure, including some of the incumbents. And Dave, now to the USA. Yeah. And plans for Old Hospital, it would sure make a great rehab center for addicted.
Yes, that's a good idea. Like, what do we use with this old hospital? If to knock it down is full of all asbestos and everything else like that, it's going to be a nightmare to knock it down.
It will be.
You've got rooms over there. You can make apartments out of it, like we did in Kiwanis. Like, we took an old school and made not-for-profit apartments for seniors, that kind of thing. So you've got this ready-built building with rooms and toilets and all kinds of plumbing all already set up there. Yes, you can. You can do a lot with that. And thank you for that suggestion, Mike. There's a lot of things that can be done there.
All right. Going to the Middle East, first one up is that Trump has announced a deal to export nuclear materials to Saudi Arabia. This is not nuclear materials for making a bomb. This is nuclear materials for making nuclear energy power stations and the like.
Now, the problem is, who built the nuclear facilities in Iran? That was the United States. The United States built the nuclear power stations in Iran in the 50s for the Shah. And guess what? Those nuclear facilities and others actually built after that are the things that were converted to making a bomb. Canada made a CANDU reactor in India with the promise from India that would not use that to make a bomb. It backstabbed us and made a bomb. Pakistan then needed to make a bomb, and it did. So are we going to give Saudi Arabia the means by which to make a bomb? And if you put a nuclear facility there, especially the way it says in this particular article, the United States is going to bring in the facilities to make nuclear power and to refine its own uranium. As soon as you make it available for them to refine their own uranium, we don't even do that in Canada. If you refine your own uranium, that means you have the ability to refine it enough to make a bomb. Remember, we're talking about fission bombs here, not fusion. We're talking about atomic bombs like the ones that hit Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They're not hydrogen bombs. Hydrogen bombs are much, much more destructive, but a nuclear atomic bomb is extremely destructive and extremely dirty. So we don't want, you're going to get Saudi Arabia, which is it's a fairly stable country now because they are an authoritarian power that brutalizes its own people if it walks out of line. But any day they may have an insurgency take over there. That did happen back in the early 80s. They had they had ISIS-like people actually attack the attack during the Hajj,
Well,
the main temples in Mecca.
the Saud family rules in Saudi Arabia at the behest of the Wahhabist religious movement, which is currently ruling a lot of what is the view in Islam.
Well, it's a very hard right-wing fundamentalist type of Islam. You know, for instance, like in Oman, you won't find that so restrictive. However, aren't you really making everything worse by putting a nuclear plant there? You know, I don't know. But here is the caveat: the Saudi Arabia must normalize. Must join the Abrahamic Accords, must normalize relationships with the Israelis. This may be a problem for Saudi Arabia because much of the Arab and Islamic world in and around the Middle East resents very much their government's attachments to the United States, and Israel. This could be a big problem for the Saudis if they normalize relationships with the Israelis, the people within Saudi Arabia who see the genocide that happened in Gaza and is still happening, are not going to like this one bit. There's going to be a lot of resistance, and no matter how brutal the Saudi army or religious police or whoever can come down on any of these people, they're still going to be there. There's going to be a resentment for normalizing relationship with Israel, particularly what Israel has been doing in the West Bank, what it has and is doing, the genocide in Gaza, and of course its war in southern Lebanon right now. Plus the fact that it sucked in the United States to bomb the crap out of Iran. And remember, before this war began, just a couple of years ago, China was able to help Iran and Saudi Arabia normalize diplomatic relations, which they hadn't had for 7 years. This, of course, alarmed the United States, seeing that they don't have normalized relationships with Israel, but they are normalizing relationships with Iran. So this is a problem for them. Yeah. I don't know if this will happen.
Well, Mike is basically saying that they've now changed their mind and that the Abrahamic Accords stuff must be signed first.
Yeah. See, I thought that that was supposed to be the condition. We'll see if Saudi does it. If Saudi does it, they're going to be in real trouble with everyone there. Remember, they have the Hajj every year. So millions of Muslims go to the Hajj every year from all over the world. They are open to all kinds of problems by doing that, particularly if they are viewed as the regime that is supporting an entity, the Zionist entity they call it, that is persecuting fellow Muslims in the Palestinian areas.
Yeah,
the Saudis are in big trouble no matter which way they go here.
Yeah. By the way, Rick has basically pointed out that oil is now at 101 a barrel. Gas is going up big time this weekend. Gas was at 173 last night. And he's just saying yesterday 172. I saw it 173.9 last night.
Yeah, that's because of the pumpkin in his war. He doesn't know what to do with it. I think it's 12 or 13 days in a row he's bombed the crap out of Iran, done huge amounts of damage. He's now, of course, threatening infrastructure like bridges and roads, and power plants, and things like that. Now, you really cross the line when you do that, because that population that you want to overcome the burden of this theocracy, you are trying to encourage the people to overturn the government they have. Of course, they can't do that. They'll be gunned down in the streets, as we've just found out from their last protest. So that's not likely going to happen. But now you're going to make yourself look really bad by bombing bridges, desalination plants. You're going to do that kind of thing. They're gonna fight back by bombing tankers and oil fields and all that other stuff. So,
and of course, with current situation with the Straits of Hormuz, US says it's open. Shipping insiders basically saying nothing's going through the Straits of Hormuz, so we don't have anything moving there, which is why the price of gas is going back up again.
Well, this is the problem with Trump supporters. They'll believe anything he says.
Yeah.
He says, oh yeah, stuff is going through there. Yeah. I mean, it might be dribbling through there, but any other independent source looks at that, any kind of satellite that looks down on that area doesn't see flow of traffic at all.
Yeah.
The Iranians might be letting stuff through, but the Americans on their behalf, anytime they want what they want to go through, it gets bombed or targeted.
Well, if you, and the other thing about this is that if you go through on the Omani side of the strait, those are the ones that get targeted, because there's been ship attacks between July 6th and 7th, which attacked 3 ships on the that were on the sticking to the Omani and UAE coastlines.
Well, yeah. We found that they went aground a couple times, 1 or 2 times, but they're still within range of Iranian drones,
of course,
Iranian missiles.
Yeah.
And they're being hit.
Yeah.
The U.S., who is trying to encourage these people to go, these ships to go through, are putting the sailors at risk. So every once in a while, one or two of them will transit. They may get through, or they may get hit. The problem is you're putting people at risk by doing that. Yeah. And Trump's plan has completely fell apart. When Hegseth went to the Congress the other day and asked for more money, he got raked over the coals. But of course, the cowardly Republicans voted for the increase in funds for the war. They're the ones that are supposed to control this stuff, but they're afraid to do that. Except the Democrats aren't afraid. But that's, of course, just politics more than anything. The Iranian people want, what was that last comment? The Iranian people want this to be done so they can be free. They cannot be free unless you want to invade.
Yeah.
The IRGC, it's just exactly like it's exactly like Nazi Germany. Did you see any revolt happening in Germany against the Nazis during the war? No, because they had such a grip of power, and anytime anyone tried to say anything, they got shot or disappeared. Yeah. Look what happened in Iran the last time they had a huge protest countrywide, right? They just said that 30 to 40,000 people were executed. We don't know how close that is. We do know certainly that 7,000 or 8,000 were executed. We don't know what happened to the other ones. Certainly some of them were jailed or put in jail or whatever, and they may have been executed, up to 40,000 people. We don't know that. So there you go. There was just a huge demonstration against the regime. And there was another huge demonstration against the regime last year. You remember, with the hijab thing, when there was a Kurdish lady who the morality police thought wasn't wearing her hijab correctly. They grabbed her and threw her and killed her or at least that's the accusations. And there had another countrywide demonstration against the regime, and it was crushed. And the one before that, when they had peaceful demonstrations a few years ago, people were being shot in the street by government officials and by snipers, including, I remember one story about a young lady who had just been out there protesting, and she got murdered by a sniper's bullet, obviously from the government. It's going to be very hard for those people to overturn that. And if the United States wants to make a huge invasion to overcome that government, then they were going to have to cost them tens of thousands of lives and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars, and they are not going to do that.
Yeah.
What Israel wants to do is have the regime destabilized, but Iran knows that Israel wants that regime destabilized because it sees what's happened to Iraq and Syria and Libya, and it's going to be damned sure that it doesn't destabilize. So it's made autonomous units all over the country to make sure that if the center part of the country gets decapitated, which did happen when all the leaders got decapitated in the initial parts of the war, that the country can just function just fine. No matter how many times they decapitate the leader, there's another leader to come up in different areas of the country. And we've seen that Iran has fought back effectively and now control the Straits of Hormuz, which they didn't do before the war.
Yeah. Right. So Karen asked a question about the website that shows the boat traffic in the across the strait. Well, actually, there's a website called marinetraffic.com, which shows you world movement of ships. Right, world locations of all the ships in the world. Phenomenal amount of them.
Yeah, so
yeah,
I don't know. They've asked for more money and they got it. They got they had $1 trillion. They've got up to $1.5 trillion right now. 1.15. They're looking for 1.5 complete. That would put an incredible strain on the American taxpayer. Right now, the United States is plunging. The one president that has put the country in more debt than any other president is Trump in his first term, and now here in this term. So, what will happen to the Iranian people? Hopefully, one day they will overturn their government somehow, but the only way you see what happened when the Americans went in, and Brits went into Iraq. They overturned that government, all right, and then what happened? Right? They didn't change it for a democratically elected government. What happened is the Kurds got autonomous, the Shias got autonomous, and the Sunnis got autonomous, and they're held together pretty much by glue. The only thing that's holding that country together is the interest in oil revenue for each section of that population. The Kurds pretty much have their own country in the north. The Shias are running their own situation in the south, and the Sunni in the middle, they have to watch out from the north and the south, but they've got their own thing going too. So what you do have there is not one country, but three little countries all glued together by oil. And so it's a very destabilized regime. We find that Syria is destabilized and Libya is destabilized. That's what Israel wants, is those to be destabilized, and the Americans will help them do that. But you're not going to do that to Iran too easy, because Iran has been preparing for this for 50 years. So it's going to be a tough thing. So basically, right now, the war against Iran has made the world economy suffer a lot and made us pay much more money. We should be paying about $1.25 for our liter of gas. Now we're going to be paying $1.70, maybe $1.80 later on. And this is because of this foolish war that never was planned properly.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend. You too,
All right.
Mike.
I think we can kind of leave it at that point, Dave.
Yep. I will bring up Gaza, though.
Of course.
Gaza's a disaster. We know that the kids there, they're lucky to get one meal a day. 1 meal a day. They're all cramped into tents and broken down old buildings. Almost every building, livable building, was destroyed. Every institution, every school, every hospital destroyed or partly destroyed as far as hospitals go. And the kids, people there are lucky to get 1 meal a day. This is supposed to be democracy. It's supposed to be a world vision. What did the United States do? What did the Allies do when they marched into Germany after the war? They cleaned it up. They made sure there were schools. They made sure there was food. They made sure there was roads. That's not what the Israelis do in the West Bank. They crush and brutalize the people that are there and take whatever they have. As much as they can take from them, they will. If a guy's holding on to a loaf of bread, they'll rip it out of his hands. So they are not a country. They're not a responsible country. They are more like Russia and China. They are an apartheid state, and it's up to us in this world to make them act accordingly. If you want to be in the family of nations, you have to act a responsible family of nations. Anyway, without further ado, I bid you do have a great weekend, everyone.
Yeah.